The Chilling Crimes of Rodney Alcala, the Dating Game Killer. Prepare yourself for one of the most chilling stories you'll ever hear. This isn't just another true crime tale. This is a descent into the mind of a man whose charm and genius hid a horrifying darkness. Rodney Alcala wasn't just a killer. He was a predator who deceived, tortured, and destroyed lives across decades. What you're about to hear will make your skin crawl. Rodney Alcala, born Rodrigo Jacques Alcala in San Antonio, Texas, on August 23, 1943, started life in a turbulent household. His family moved to Mexico when he was 8 years old, but just 3 years later, his father abandoned them. Left to fend for themselves, Alcala's mother decided to move the family to Los Angeles, California. It was here that Rodney grew up, but life was far from ordinary. Growing up in LA, Rodney showed promise. He was bright, with an IQ nearing genius level, but his early years were marked by instability and isolation. At 17, he joined the US Army, but his time there was short-lived. By 21, Rodney began showing signs of mental illness. His superiors noticed erratic behavior. He ignored commands, showed no remorse, and displayed cold, emotionless reactions, even to punishment. After a psychological evaluation, he was diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder and discharged from the military. This diagnosis would follow Rodney throughout his life, though no one could have imagined just how dangerous he would become. In 1968, Rodney committed his first known crime. He lured 8-year-old Tali Shapiro into his car by pretending to know her parents. When she initially refused, Rodney used manipulation, claiming he was a family friend. A taxi driver, Donald Haynes, happened to witness the interaction and became suspicious. He decided to follow Rodney's car and watched as it stopped at an apartment complex. As soon as Rodney led Tali inside, Haynes called the police, providing the location of the apartment. When officers arrived at the apartment, they knocked on the door, loudly identifying themselves as police. There was no response. Undeterred, they knocked again, their voices firm and commanding. Finally, the door creaked open slightly, and there stood Rodney Alcala. His demeanor was unnervingly calm, his hair wet, and he was wearing a towel. Smiling casually, he told the officers, "I was in the shower. I'm not dressed. Give me a minute to change." The officers, sensing something was amiss, gave him 10 seconds. Rodney closed the door, and the seconds ticked by. 10, 11, 12. Silence. The officers had enough. They broke down the door and stormed into the apartment. What they discovered was beyond horrifying. In the kitchen, Tali Shapiro lay on the floor, surrounded by a pool of blood. She had been beaten with a metal bar, sexually assaulted, and left for dead. The scene was gruesome, and the officers were shaken to their core. Just as they began to process the nightmare in front of them, one of the officers noticed a faint, almost imperceptible movement. Tali was alive. Against all odds, she was still clinging to life. Emergency medical services were immediately called, and she was rushed to the hospital. Miraculously, she survived, though she remained in a coma for a year. But Rodney? He escaped, slipping out a back window before police could arrest him. This marked the beginning of his fugitive life. Rodney resurfaced in New York, assuming the alias John Berger. He enrolled in NYU's film school, studying under none other than Roman Polanski, a director with his own dark past. While Rodney appeared to be a normal, ambitious student, he was anything but. In 1971, flight attendant Cornelia Crilly was found strangled with her own stockings in her Manhattan apartment. The case went cold for decades, but Rodney was later connected to her murder in 2011 through DNA evidence. During his time in New York, Rodney began working as a camp counselor at an arts camp for children, a chilling irony given his predatory tendencies. In the mid-1970s, Rodney returned to California, where he began posing as a professional photographer. Armed with a camera and false charm, he approached women and children, convincing them to let him take their photos. Many of these individuals were never seen again. Rodney's photography wasn't just a hobby, it was his way of selecting victims. Hundreds of photos, many explicit, were later found in his possession. Some of the people in these photos remain unidentified, and investigators believe they could be additional victims. Alcala's crimes were not just about murder, they were about control. He was known to toy, with his victims, strangling them until they lost consciousness, only to revive them and repeat the process. This horrifying pattern wasn't just about causing pain. It was about asserting dominance, a trait often seen in sociopathic killers. His ability to mask these tendencies behind a veneer of normalcy is what made him so dangerous. Perhaps the most bizarre twist in Rodney's story came in 1978 when he appeared on the popular TV show The Dating Game. Despite his criminal record and being a registered sex offender, Rodney was chosen as a contestant. The producers didn't bother to conduct a background check.
Here they are. Good luck, gentlemen. Well, let's see. Bachelor number one is a successful photographer who got his start when his father found him in the dark room at the age of 13, fully developed. Between takes, he might find him skydiving or motorcycling. Please welcome Rodney Alcala. Rod, welcome. Next anymore. That's not true. He works a lot. He's into music and soccer. Here is Armand Chiami. Armand. And those are three bachelors for the game, and we'll be right back to meet our young lady, if you will, sensational Cheryl Bradshaw. Hello, Cheryl. Don't sit down yet. Just a minute. Want to make sure everything is straight. You relaxed? You feel okay? All right. You know there are three bachelors over there. There'll be 1, 2, and 3. Ask them anything you like to find out more about them, except their name, age, occupation, or income, okay? And we're going to start by having them say hello to you and see how they sound. Number one, would you say hello to Cheryl, please?
We're going to have a great time together, Cheryl.
Okay. Number two.
Hi, Cheryl. It's nice to almost meet you.
And number three.
Cheryl. Hello.
Oh, you got a lot to work with there, I'll tell you. Are you ready? Questions all set?
Yes.
What's your best time?
The best time is at night. Nighttime.
Why do you say that?
Because that's the only time there is.
The only time? What's wrong with morning, afternoon?
Well, they're okay, but nighttime's when it really gets good. Then you're really ready.
You're a dirty old man.
Take it.
Come on, over here.
Number one, I am serving you for dinner.
Oh.
What are you called, and what do you look like?
I'm called the banana, and I look really good.
Can you be a little more descriptive?
Peel me.
From the bachelors, you got some great dramatic presentations, some good answers, but now I'm going to ask you a question. Will that date be bachelor number one, bachelor number two, or bachelor number three? Who gets the dates?
Well, I like bananas, so I'll take one.
Number one, bachelor number one, all right. Well, I go. However, you did leave one remaining, and this is your date, and I want to tell you something about him, Cheryl. He's a skydiver, so he's got a lot of nerve. He's into motorcycling. He's also a fine photographer. Say hello to Rodney Alcala. Rodney, come on and say hello. Congratulations, Rod. You did it with the one answer. Well, as far as I can see, Cheryl and Rodney, it looks like the two of you may be involved in some sort of racket. So we're going to have you take to the court. Oh, first you'll receive tennis lessons from expert Naomi Besa of the Baywood, California. So have fun playing tennis. Thank you, Rodney. Thank you. Okay. You can go relax, meet each other, say hello, get acquainted, and they'll be back. And before we begin our next game, let's find out what runners-up will receive today from Johnny Jacobs. John?
On the show, Rodney was charming, confident, and even funny. He won the game and was set to go on a date with the bachelorette, Cheryl Bradshaw. But after the cameras stopped rolling, Cheryl refused to go out with him. She later said he gave her the creeps. Little did Cheryl know, she had narrowly escaped becoming another victim. Rodney's crimes escalated. In 1979, 12-year-old Robin Samso disappeared while riding her bike to ballet class. Her remains were found 12 days later in the Los Angeles foothills, partially consumed by wild animals. A friend of Robin's told police about a strange man who had approached them on the beach, asking to take their photos. This description led to a sketch, and Rodney's parole officer recognized him immediately. When police searched Rodney's storage locker, they found earrings belonging to Robin and countless other trophies from his victims. Rodney's confirmed victims include Tali Shapiro, 8, survived his brutal attack in 1968. Cornelia Crilly, 23, strangled in her apartment in 1971. Jill Barkham, 18, assaulted and strangled in 1977. Georgia Wickstead, 27, beaten with a hammer in her apartment. Charlotte Lamb, 32, strangled with a shoelace in a laundry room. Gilles Parenteau, 21, found strangled in her home. Robin Samso, 12, kidnapped, assaulted and killed in 1979. These are just the confirmed victims. Investigators believe the true number could be in the hundreds. Rodney was arrested in 1979 and charged with Robin Samso's murder. He was convicted and sentenced to death in 1980. But the California Supreme Court overturned his conviction, citing jury bias. In 1986, Rodney was retried, convicted, and again sentenced to death. But this verdict too was overturned. It wasn't until 2010, after new DNA evidence linked him to multiple murders, that Rodney was convicted for the third time and once again sentenced to death. Throughout his trials, Rodney represented himself, turning the courtroom into a circus. He cross-examined witnesses, including the parents of his victims, and even played recordings of his own interviews. His behavior was chilling and manipulative. In 2021, Rodney Alcala died in prison while awaiting execution. Though his death brought some relief to his surviving victims and their families, his true body count may never be known. Investigators continue to link him to cold cases, and hundreds of his photographs remain a haunting reminder of lives lost. Rodney Alcala's story isn't just about a serial killer, it's a cautionary tale about appearances and deception. His charm allowed him to hide in plain sight, while his victims paid the ultimate price. What do you think about this case? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories that will leave you questioning everything.